Welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast, where we feature life, health, and transformational coaches being the change they seek in the world. If you'd like to be featured on our podcast to share what you're contributing to making the world a better place for us all, please go to www.jointheuworldorder.com. Be sure to like and follow our podcast for the latest episodes. Hi, and welcome to the U World Order Showcase podcast. I'm your host, Jill Hart, and with us today is Ailina Ismail. She is a functional doctor who helps busy and ambitious women in their 20s to their 50s discover the root causes of their fatigue, chronic pain, and brain fog, and helps them to overcome these issues for good so that they can show up in their lives, workplace, and at home with more energy, vitality, and mental clarity. Welcome to the show, Ailina. It's really nice to have you here.
Hi, Jill. Thanks. Thank you for having me on this podcast, your show. I'm very grateful to be here.
Oh, well, it's really great to have you here. And just for the listeners' sake, this is take two. We were having some technical difficulties. Zoom decided to just change the way they're doing stuff, and Ailina was having trouble deciding which device she was going to be on and to be able to hear and talk. But we're all settled
here
now.
Yes.
So
all good.
So we're going to make her tell her story again.
Sure, why not? So how did I get into functional medicine, right?
Yes.
So basically, I have two kids. I have three children. Two are on the spectrum. And as I was saying, my son who's in the middle, he's neurotypical, but he's got the middle child syndrome, and he gives me more grief than the other two. So my eldest is now 25. She's on the spectrum. She's got intellectual disability. And my youngest son could not speak when he was 4 years old. Now he's got verbal diarrhea. So that's why we call it's on the spectrum, because everyone presents different. And when I did medical school in the 90s, that makes me sound old. We never talked about autism. So I had to do my own research, and I found that conventional medicine didn't give me the answers that I wanted. So don't get me wrong, conventional medicine is important. I still practice it. So it's like if you've got a heart attack or heart failure, you need drugs. If not, you're going to die, right? Mm-hmm. But what we forget to do is sometimes conventional medicine for chronic illnesses, everything, it's a pill for an ill. Say you've got diabetes and your sugar's high, your doctor gives you a script for a medication that brings your sugar down. If your sugar is not well controlled, he gives you another drug, and so on. And then some people develop side effects from the drug. So that's all and good at the start, when we need to bring down your sugar because in the long term, high sugar does cause a lot of problems. But we are not looking at the root cause of diabetes, for example, when we should pay more attention to your sleep, your stress, your relationships with other people, movement, exercise and movement, and nutrition. So that's where functional medicine differs a bit in terms of chronic illnesses. It was the same with being on the spectrum. So we know autism is multifactorial, but that's how I started learning from Bill Walsh from the Walsh Institute, and then now with the Institute of Functional Medicine, how we look at root causes, the gut and the brain connection, the environmental toxicants, and how we detox it from our body, and so on. So that's the difference between conventional and functional medicine.
I can relate to that so much. And I think conventional medicine really does have its place in emergency medicine. There's nobody I would rather have than a doctor if I got in a car accident or had some traumatic injury to my body, or even, some traumatic reaction from organs in my body. But what tends to happen, what I've seen happen, is that people go to the doctor and they want the doctor to solve a problem for them that they're having. But they don't want to do anything themselves. They don't want to take responsibility for what got them to that point and stop doing that action so that they can get away from these. They're really, I think that they were originally designed to be um, to keep you from having critical problems. Like, you're talking about lowering your blood sugars. You can't just put somebody on a medication and then expect that everything's going to go fine. You don't ever go back to the doctor, or you go to a different doctor who doesn't understand what happened in the first place, and he puts you on something else. So we see that a lot with the elderly,
Yep.
and it's dangerous. And people don't take responsibility for their lifestyles.
Yeah. You should be an advocate for your own health. You should listen to your body and ask questions like, why am I taking this drug? Why is it doing this? And so on. Because, it's your body.
My dad has a really interesting approach that he takes to medicine. He's 88 now, and he's amazingly in good shape for his lifestyle choices. But he has a doctor that he has on retainer. So, which keeps him from having to go to the emergency room, which I think really speaks to why he's been able to live such a good quality of life for so long. And it's that, if he has something weird happen to him, like he had blood in his urine not that long ago. And, he's had pancreatic, or not pancreatic, but bladder cancer. So he was worried that that's maybe what was happening. So he calls this doctor that he has on retainer, and the doctor says, well, you're going into the urologist in a couple weeks, go see him and see what's happening there. And the urologist said, no cancer. And so he went back to the doctor, and the doctor's like, well, are you still on that blood thinner that you were on? And my dad says, yeah. He'd fired this doctor. So just like, why are you still on this blood thinner? And nobody's monitoring it really. So they took him off of that, and like night and day difference for how
Serious.
I mean, he was all bruised up and
Um,
no more bleeding randomly. Um, but it's just it's the case in my dad's case, he could have gone to the emergency room,
yep.
which is what most people would do if they had that situation present, and then they're into a whole different circuit of different things that could be wrong with you, and let's try out all of our medical equipment and give you a bunch of drugs that you probably don't need, rather than just looking at what you're already doing and seeing if we could adjust that.
Yeah, unfortunately. But that's how the system works at the moment. So that's why I say always advocate for your own health. Always ask questions.
Yeah, for sure. So well, you talk a lot about fatigue and chronic pain and brain fog and those sorts of things that you help people with. What are the common causes for that in your experience?
There's a lot, but I always say think of simple things first. It could be in the broad sense, you look at fatigue in terms of is it sleep? So if you're having enough sleep or not, and what's the quality of sleep? Because some people say, I just sleep 8 hours a day, not a problem. I'm still tired. Then I said, do you feel well rested after your 8 hours of sleep? And then they're like, no, I still feel tired. So the quality of the sleep, and then is the fatigue physical? So is it muscle fatigue, and one of like how do you get muscle fatigue from exercising, but could it be other things that's happening? And the last is mental fatigue. So you can get Zoom fatigue. You're always on Zoom all the time. Excuse me. So there are three different types of broad possibilities, root causes of fatigue, and then we go into more detail. And then we look at detail, we look at, I call it like the pyramid of dysfunction. We always, the second, apart from sleep, is stress. So if you've got a lot of stress, it can cause obviously mental fatigue. And sometimes when we have mental health issues, then it transmits as psychosomatic. Then you get bodily symptoms, right? But it all started with stress in your mind. And then, of course, we look at trauma. So trauma is huge, transgenerational adverse childhood events. So all those need to be addressed, if not, again, mental and physical fatigue. And last, we go a bit deeper in functional. In how I address it is looking at your gut and more the upper gastrointestinal, so from your mouth right to your stomach, looking at acid production because a lot of people are on proton pump inhibitors. Those prevent production of acid, and acid's important for your stomach to digest protein, to kill off bad bacteria before they get into the lower parts of the gut. And so those are all the basic things that I would look at. Oh, and one more, nutrient deficiencies. So vitamin D. I'm not sure about in the US, but in Australia, in Melbourne, in Victoria, personally, everyone's low in vitamin D. So what happens is when the labs, for example, measure vitamin D, what's their reference range? They're actually basing their reference range, say they do bloods for 1,000 people, and then everyone falls in this bell curve when they chart the results on like a chart. And okay, if 95% of the population falls between the 95% that they test falls between that bell curve, that must be the normal range. So when everyone's low in vitamin D, then and your levels are that, it must be normal. It's not. Then there's optimum levels. So in functional medicine, there's healthy levels and then there's optimum levels. So the optimum never goes outside of the health range. So we're not working with like acute dangerous illnesses, but it's more optimized. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I've heard this before, and it always cracks me up when I get a test done and the doctor's like, oh, it's in the normal range. It's like
Yeah,
normal for sick people.
I know,
Let's talk
right?
about optimal ranges.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's why when people come to me and say, I've got fatigue, I say, okay, let's look at your bloods. Oh, my doctor said it's normal. I said, no, let's look at it. Like I want to have a look and then I'll interpret it from a functional point of view. Then they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And then I give them the research. So like there's fact sheets about how we got to these numbers. Because like in Australia, our units are different from yours. For example, again, we go back to vitamin D. Ours is nanomoles per liter off the top of my head. You guys are nanograms per mil. So it's quite different. But in our labs, normal is 50, but my functional normal is 120. That's huge difference, right? It's huge. But
It
yeah,
is a huge difference. And
um,
people don't even think about how much time they spend indoors, even in the summertime, or maybe even especially in the summertime, because it's hot outside. So you don't go outside and get in the sun like you're supposed to. And
and
that's
you
where
worry
you
about
get,
skin cancer.
yeah, or you slather other chemicals on you that I truly don't believe they're good for you.
So the best
Because
is try to get out in the sun. Like today's a nice day. We're going hopefully soonish into summer. You guys are going to winter. Get out in the sun 10, 15, 30 minutes before 10 a.m. would be the best time when the UV light's not too, yeah. Because vitamin D, unfortunately, you can't get it much from food. So it's mostly from the sun. And sun is really good for your cortisol levels. Like it wakes you up. Yeah, natural sunlight.
we walk every morning, and it's
Oh, that's
a lot
good.
of it's
Yep.
for that reason. It's
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
so good for you.
Yep. And walking releases endorphins, your feel good hormones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you walk with somebody that you love and it builds your relationship if you don't talk
Or
about
listen to
politics or
some music. Yeah.
yeah, maybe music would be better. My husband likes to sing though. It's got a song
Ah,
for everything.
that's so sweet.
It's pretty funny. So how did all this help your kids?
Functional medicine.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we went back to basics. Like it was okay. Like conventional says, okay, she couldn't write, go to see a occupational therapist. She couldn't speak, see a speechy, what we call here a speech pathologist. That's fine. But then we look at root causes. So I went hardcore when they're small, when they're still kids and they listen to their moms. It's easier.
Yeah.
Gluten free, dairy free. There's so much research on how in certain people, especially kids on the spectrum or in autoimmune diseases, gluten and casein is the protein from dairy, is two of the major inflammatory foods for your gut. And we're not going into too much detail because of time. It can cause leaky gut, and then it can, meaning the barrier between your gut wall within the outside and the inside of your body breaks down. So then you take other things that you would normally not react to, but now because your gut's leaky, you start reacting to other foods. And then there's such a strong connection between the gut and the brain, right? So then, because with autism, your brain function starts to decline with time if you don't address it. We look at the gut because 90% of the time, the gut's talking to the brain via our favorite vagus nerve. And then 10% is brain to gut. So looking at the gut is important. Yes, supplements can help at the start again. So like medication, supplements are good to boost. But if you take supplements forever, then it becomes like another drug, right? So start off with that and then look at nutrition because we can use nutrition, food as medicine. That's the goal of functional medicine, to look at what we have. And then, of course, looking at organic foods and so on. Like we could go into more detail. But yes, use food as medicine rather than supplements. Because some people come to me with bags of supplements, like, and I'm like, who gave that to you? Then they say they went to this practitioner. I said, yeah, it's okay. Then I say, does it help with your fatigue? And then they're like, I don't know. I've been taking this for years. I'm like, okay, in order not to waste money, let's try coming off it one at a time and then see if it makes you feel worse. Because that's the only way you know. And then if they say, didn't do anything, I say, chuck it, chuck it. Let's start again. Let's just go with a basic few. So the basic few would be like looking at zinc, magnesium, B12 is important, and just seeing, okay, if we can measure it, let's measure it in your blood and then we address it. And then once we are better, start getting it from food. Magnesium, you can get it from chocolate. Not that all chocolate's good, but hey, dark
I
chocolate's
love
good.
dark chocolate.
Pumpkin seed. So there's a lot of things that we can get from nature if we were looking about for it. But like I didn't learn about it in medical school. I learned it from functional medicine. So yeah, you should do, like, if people are not sure, have a chat with me. I can direct you to what foods are rich in all these nutrients that our body needs.
And sometimes when you get into supplements, you mentioned magnesium. Magnesium is one of those supplements that there's a lot of different um, types of magnesium. Most people don't
Yep.
realize that. And in testing out the different types of magnesium, like it can cause you gastrointestinal problems if you take certain kinds. I mean, that's what it's for. And there are certain kinds that your body just can't digest. So you're taking them, but it's not really doing anything for you. In fact, it's probably making the problem worse because it's causing you to drop a lot of water. But you need magnesium in your body for all the electrical things that go on in your brain and your heart and your muscles. And really, when you get it in your food, you're getting all of the other things with it packaged together so that your body
Yep.
can actually assimilate it and use it. Versus it's just like, I took my magnesium supplement, I'm good to go. I can eat a whole bag of potato chips now.
You're so right. Because magnesium on its own as a mineral cannot be absorbed by your gut. So companies have to like attach a salt to it. So magnesium oxide, that's for constipation. So taking that, like if we do bloods and we find, oh, your magnesium is low, and then my patient says, oh, I'm on magnesium. I said, show me which one. And then if it's oxide, I'm like, you could take 2 or 3. It'll still just make you poop more. The magnesium doesn't get absorbed, right? One of the two best ones would be magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate would be good. Thionate, magnesium thionate is more, it crosses the blood-brain barrier, so it's more good for the brain. But yeah, my 3 top things that I take magnesium or I suggest for people is if they have sleep issues. So magnesium is really good for sleep, anxiety, and muscle. So if I find people it's more for sleep, then I say maybe take it more at night. If it's more anxiety, take it up throughout the day. And if it's for me, like when I work out in the morning, so I take it more in the morning. So it's different timings, different doses, different types of salts. And yes, once we get that to optimal level, then just eat more foods with high magnesium. Like don't depend on supplements.
Yeah, I'm with you. What are your thoughts? I'm going to ask you this because I'm curious. I've done a lot of research on it, but I haven't gotten a definitive answer. So I like to ask people who might actually have some science backed or even experientially backed information. But what are your thoughts on like magnesium being absorbed through the skin?
There's 2 school of thoughts.
I know.
Some
It works
and
or it doesn't
I always
work.
and I always give them both options. Like, yeah, so there's some school of thoughts that swear, there's a school of thought that swears by transdermal absorption. So that's when people do Epsom salt baths, magnesium baths, and if you really do it, it does calm you down. So is it the temperature of the water? Is it, that zen of being in water plus the magnesium? Some people say, oh, I've got no time to do Epsom salt baths. I said, even if you're watching TV, just chuck it in a food basin, put your feet in there, 20 minutes, it should work. Then there's other school of thought say, not transdermally, no research, no studies. You gotta take it everything orally. Yeah, so I like to do both. Like and then I tell a patient because some clients don't like to be in a bath, don't like to put their feet in what. Then I said just take them orally. There are creams that you can try. Trust me, if I've had muscle cramps, that's the first thing I go to, a magnesium cream, and it works. So I'm like, sometimes is it just based on studies or will like experience in real life? So I say do both.
I know my husband, he uses Epsom salt. He has some neuropathy happening in his feet, and it's
Uh,
not they don't know what causes it. It's not
uh,
diabetes. He's totally fine. He drove a truck for like a million years, and so we think that it might be based on that, or he also, because he was a truck driver, had to take this high blood pressure medicine
uh,
to get his blood pressure down in some weird range where mostly he has white coat syndrome, because when we take his
okay.
blood pressure at home, normally it's fine.
Ah,
But because he has to pass this artificial test to get his CDL, anyway, so one of the side effects is neuropathy on this one kind of medication he was on. So he ended up getting disability because of all these problems. But he soaks his feet at night. And I know that when he soaks his feet at night, he sleeps a lot better.
see,
So, yeah,
placebo effect might play a role, but yeah, it works. So don't don't overthink it. Like don't just think about studies, but yeah, if it works, use it.
yeah. I'm with you on the, if you should just try it. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that doesn't really work for everything, but for some things it really can help you. So what are your top, let's say your top 5 ideas for helping people look at what's causing fatigue in their lives? Should I frame it
As
that
I
way?
said again, so nutrient deficiencies is huge. So if you're in nutrient debt, then obviously I would go see your practitioner if they will do the bloods, or if you want, I can help interpret the bloods for you. But in terms of energy, you look at all the nutrients I talk about, the zinc, magnesium, B12, iron is huge too, especially in women, vitamin D. And then look at your sleep. So is it problems going to sleep, or um, you can fall asleep fine, but it's more staying asleep. So you get out in the middle of the night, you go to pee, and then you come back to bed and you can't go to sleep. So can you initiate sleep or maintain sleep, or both, and then address that? If there were top 3 tips that I would say easily for fatigue is food as medicine. Look at the rainbow colors of your food. So if you could get, it's not easy, but if you could get a whole range of your rainbow colored food in a day, so the purple of an eggplant, what are the rainbow colors? Then blueberries, red could be
Cranberries, green
tomato. Yeah,
beans,
yeah,
tomatoes,
yeah.
oranges, lemons,
Sometimes you
limes.
just have to again advocate for yourself, and when you go and buy stuff at the farmers market, look for all these things. It'll just be staring at you in the face and you might still not see it. And then being yes, we live in a crazy world. We always have this chronic stress. Some people say they're not overwhelmed, but most people, if you're multitasking, I can be guilty of that too. And you got to think of your kids, work, personal life. Then sometimes it's good just to do this quick tip where you actually put your fingers together. So it's hard if it's a podcast. I've got like a freebie that you can download, and then do your breathing. So I use the rule of 4, where you inhale slowly for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, and do it 4 times, because that actually then triggers your vagus nerve. Remember, I said the vagus nerve is the major nerve where your gut talks to your brain. So that calms things down. So it's the rest and digest compared to your flight and fight. And finally, it's the top 3 again. Like the third one would be moving. So you go walk, like you go for a walk with your husband. Some people bring their dogs. Some people can't even get off their couch because they're too fatigued. So while we're looking at all the other things that could cause their fatigue, my I just say maybe just sit in a chair, start stretching, start twisting, just moving your body, or try a daily walk to your post box and back, and then every day do that, and then keep building on that in terms of frequency, in terms of length of exercise and moving, and then that would be the first top 3 things that I would do.
Awesome. So do you work with people all over the world, just in Australia? How does that
So
all
I've got
work?
a practice, so that's when people see me face to face, but some are from interstate Australia. But yes, I've pivoted to going online. Like I want to work with more people online, so I do have a 12-week online program. The other thing is, apart from being able to reach more people, I find that with my offline practice, with functional, I might not see them for a month, or 3 months, depending on when their bloods are due, because I just don't have enough of me. I should clone myself. So I find that with online, I can leverage myself, and then we can do weekly check-ins. So I find that people, if they don't have accountability, they just kind of fall off the bandwagon. So I get people coming back after a month, 3 months, and like, I'm looking at my notes and like, did you do this? How did that go? And they're like, oh, I did it maybe for a week, and then it was too cold to go out for a walk. And so if there's an online program and it's a weekly check-in, doesn't have to be crazy. I send you out like based on your previous week, like a shot, tick this box, and if you have more red markers coming out rather than the green, then we have a quick 5-10 minutes chat online, and okay, where you stuck, what can we do, or is this too hard, let's tweak it a bit. So that's the main difference I find. Apart from reaching more people, it's more a weekly touch base, check in, and then you can see the progress better. Like say, like magnesium, take more pumpkin seeds, but then they say, oh, it's boring to eat pumpkin seeds. Then maybe next week I say, okay, chocolate's also high, cacao is also high in magnesium. Why don't you put it in melted chocolate? Like strawberries and chocolate. That's the pumpkin seeds in melted chocolate. Yeah. So giving them all these ideas week by week, then and everyone sees the potential of improving faster, better than the once a month, once in 3 months review. So that's the goal.
Like that. It sounds like, is it a group or is it just individual?
So it's a group training, which is recorded, and people can always go back to watch it if the timing is not right.
Mhm.
Then there's a Q&As at the end, or there's if they don't attend live, there's a Facebook private group. You can always ask questions. I come on every few days and answer questions. And then we learn from other people's questions too. Sometimes we don't think about the questions and someone else answers, and then I answer it, and people are like, oh, didn't know about that. So, and then as I said, the weekly check-ins get emailed. They send it back to me. And then I think I need to tweak something. We jump on a Zoom one-to-one for 5-10 minutes to just address that week's issues.
I love that. So does it work like my dad's concierge service, sort of, where they pay for a set amount of time that they have access to you and that you're going to follow up with them? And is it results oriented or is it kind of open-ended?
So I only say an initial commitment of 12 weeks, 3 months, because everyone is at a different level in the health journey, right? Some people would be just, oh, I'm doing well nutrition wise. I just need to tweak my thyroid, for example. I'm on this medication. How do we come off it? Then some people are like, I have no idea where to start. So they're like studying. So it's an initial commitment of 12 weeks. You go through, there's like modules. Each week there's something we learn different, because I base it on the 5R. So we look at re-evaluating. So where you are, there's a blueprint of like lots of questions that are asked symptom-wise, and then looking at your blood work from a functional point. So that's to re-evaluate where you are at the beginning of your journey. And then we remove all those toxins, whether it's food, environmental toxins, personal products, and then we replace. So we replace them with more nutritious foods. We replace with personal care products. You can get those clean, non-paraben, non-SLS, all the stuff that's bad for our body. Then we look at rebalance. So rebalancing your life in terms of lifestyle, looking at the sleep, the stress, nutrition, exercise, upper gut before we go into lower gut. Because sometimes it's like a flow. If you work with your upper gut first and address that, sometimes your body heals and you don't have to look at the big gut, the microbiome, your poo, and all that. Sometimes things just fall into place. And lastly, before rebalance, sorry, it was regroup. Sometimes, as I said, you fall off the bandwagon. That's when we do the weekly check-ins and see, okay, can't do this, too hard, lots of side effects, let's try this, and so on. So that's how my program, the 5R program, re-energizing your life works. But everyone's at a different stage. So some people really do well at phase 1 and they just take a few weeks. Some people take longer, and you can't compare. Like everyone's at a different stage in their health journey, right?
Makes
And if
total
people want
sense.
to continue, they just keep going, or people's happy, they stop. Yeah.
Makes total sense. I really like the idea, and I'm hoping that the whole medical complex kind of moves more in that direction. I think it would make for much healthier societies overall. And I'm really glad that you're offering this to people pretty much everywhere. It's not, I know that where I live, it's really hard to find a functional medicine
Mm.
doctor because there just aren't any. I live in the middle of the country, and if I wanted to go all the way to Salt Lake, I might be able to find somebody, but I'm not driving that far. So, that we can call somebody online or contact somebody online and get the ball moving is pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you.
So,
I think that, sorry, the latest research shows that when you go to your conventional doctor, most doctors spend like 9.5 minutes in a consult. You can't address anything. Like your brain has to like, and you come for different things. So then the doctor has to think of it. Yeah. So you can't do much in 9.5. Unfortunately, that's how the medical system is. I'm not sure about you, but in the UK,
it's
in
the same
Australia,
way.
yeah. Yeah. Whereas my conventional patients, I spend at least 15 minutes, and then my functional will go for like an hour 15. Because you're looking at the whole body. You don't just look at, oh, just help me with my thyroid. Don't worry about anything else. I said, you can't do that because your thyroid is your sentinel gland. Your thyroid is looking at other parts of your body. So if your gut's not happy, your thyroid's not happy. So yeah, holistic view.
Yeah, it always amazes me that people, and by people I mean doctors, they want to look at one organ. Okay, we're just going to isolate this one organ, but it's connected to all the other organs. You have it for a reason. Well, we're just going to yank it out. You'll
It
never
happens,
miss it.
it happens even here, like, and that's how we learn in medical school and how we subspecialize. So like if you're a gastroenterologist, yes, you know so much about a bit, right? Just about the gut. Well, even then, that's more structural than functional. Shouldn't say that. And then, so I had one patient, she went to a gastroenterologist and he just happened to do her blood pressure. And he's like, oh my God, it's high. Why don't you go back to your general practitioner and ask her to refer you to a cardiologist? I'm like, no, manage the patient as a whole. You don't have to compartmentalize your illnesses, right? Because your body is a whole. It doesn't work on its own. The
Right.
gut
And
talks
one
to the
thing doesn't
brain.
go wrong
No,
without other things
yeah,
being affected. You
yep, yeah,
can't just look at one organ and say, "Oh, here, we'll give you this pill." It's why we have side effects, because that
yep.
one little pill is going to do
What,
something. And
yeah,
it's like people that take melatonin all the time. Yeah, maybe sometimes you need something to help you fall asleep. But if you take
yep.
melatonin all the time, then your body stops learning how to produce it itself.
Yep.
Better
Or you
tell
need
us
more and
that.
more of the synthetic
Mhm.
ones, and then you're still not addressing the root causes of why you're not sleeping in the first place, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Don't get me wrong, melatonin is really good. It's one of the superoxidants, so it's a really good anti-inflammatory. If I'm jet lag, it works amazing. Like it's really good for jet lag. But yeah,
It's it has its place. It's like
yep,
everything. Everything
yep.
has its place, and if you use it as it's intended to be used, as a
All good.
sometime occasional help with sleep, not not a daily supplement. That becomes an addiction.
True. It's true that you can live without it, right?
Yeah.
It's the same with what I call happy pills, your antidepressants. Like
Mhm.
it's supposed to work. For example, one of it is the SSRIs. It helps to maintain this capsule of your happy hormone, serotonin, longer at the nerve ending. So then it can send the message from one nerve to the next nerve that you're happy. But then it acts in the other part of the brain. Then people feel like they've lost their zest for life. They feel emotionally blunt, or then it affects the gut and you get nausea. And it's just one thing. It's like a domino effect. So why don't you look with mental health? Look at zinc, your copper, because copper is a huge factor in converting dopamine to noradrenaline. So dopamine goes down, you're more depressed. Noradrenaline goes up, you're more anxious. Like looking at the biochemistry of the brain would be a good thing.
Yeah.
I talk too much.
And no, you don't. It's so important, and people, there's so many ways that you can address these issues that are more natural. I struggle with anxiety for a long time, and I found ashwagandha. And
Ah,
I
I
mentioned it
like
to a
adaptation.
doctor, and he actually had to look it up on his phone.
Mm.
I was floored. It's like
You can't blame him. We don't learn that in medical school, unfortunately. Yeah,
it
I
to
love
me, that's a
adaptogen.
miracle drug because I can tell when I don't take it for a while, and it works pretty quickly in terms of like calming your nervous system down. That with breathing, the box breathing is like
Yeah.
it's another miracle drug. I'm telling you, when I learned to do box breathing, it changed
Wow.
my whole ability to sleep at night after menopause. It was just like I was struggling so hard with getting to sleep and staying asleep. And you just do
Mm.
that and you
Amazing,
drift
right?
off. It's
I
just
know.
like
Simple.
it's
Not rocket
just
science.
breathing, but it's breathing a certain way, and your body just it really does respond. I don't know. I keep saying amazing, but it's because it really is amazing.
Mm.
So you offer 3 simple steps to stop being tired. How to stop being tired in 3 simple steps, I think is how you put it.
Quick
You want to
fixes.
talk a
Yeah.
little bit about that so we can,
I did, I
yeah,
think a bit before. You can always find it in my website at drylina.com. Basically the three things that I mentioned briefly before, it's first the breath work. So you just showed it, the box breath work. While you actually put your fingertips to each other. So I can't show it here, but I think it's on the document because that then triggers the right brain, left brain connection, and also it calms you down the vagus nerve. Then the second thing is moving. However, you have to move, whether it's swimming, walking just to the post box, just twisting in your chair, doing chair exercises or movements. And the third is eating a rainbow colored foods, right? Yeah. Sounds simple, but give it a try. It's just like you said, your breath work works for you, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's just simple things. And you can
Yeah.
download that at dralina.com
Yep.
/FF. And I will put the link in the show notes so that people
Thank you.
can find it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been a great conversation.
No worries. I just want to
And
say, like, if you want to follow me, my main platform is more Instagram. So it's Dr. _Ilina. So you can put that in the show notes too. And there's a link if you want, there's a quiz to see what root causes. If you're suffering from fatigue, what are the root causes to that? I concentrate more on the thyroid, your hormones, your other hormones, and the gut, and then you can get like a percentage, and then you can always book a call with me. It's free. Bring me your blood work if it's been a recent one, and then I can just interpret it from a functional point of view.
so when you talk about bring your blood work, what kind of blood panels would you want people to do?
Oh, the more the better. But I know in Australia, in the US, you might be restricted by your insurance and all that. I'm not sure, but the
Some of
basic one.
us
So,
just pay for it by
oh, okay.
through cash, but
So that's a good one. Maybe I should put it on my Instagram, like what we look for. It's an easy list. Basically, your full blood count because your liver function, your kidney, because even from your liver, looking at ALP, one of the enzymes, you could actually conquer whether your zinc is low, even without doing your plasma zinc. Because sometimes plasma zinc, not many labs do it, or they charge a lot for that. So even just basics of full blood count, liver, kidneys, your cholesterol. Then there's ways of how to do the blood. So you must always keep the context of when you do the bloods the same way. For example, fasting 8 to 10 hours, not longer, not shorter, no exercise. If you're crazy marathon gym junkie, then at least 3 days of not exercising, and that might be hard for some. So at least 24 hours. Going off supplements for at least 24 hours. Off the top of my head, those would be the basic ones, because say 3 months down the line, I say, okay, this was not optimum, let's do this, and then we test again. We must make sure the environment where we did the blood taking is the same, right? So still fasting, no exercise, because if not, you're kind of like comparing apples to pears. Because some people come to me, oh, I fasted. I said, when was your last meal? 12 hours ago. I said, oh, that will affect some of the liver enzymes, right? So then you don't get an accurate representation of how the biochemistry of the blood. So going back to that, cholesterol, sugar, HbA1c is a better one. It looks at the 3 months of your average sugar in the last 3 months. If you can get uric acid, be good. If you can get high sensitivity CRP, it's good for inflammatory markers. Homocysteine is huge. Yeah, you just reminded me. I'll put down a list that people can go through, that they can click on the link for free in my Instagram. And then you can just get your doctor to do it, or you do it privately.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
that would be really awesome. I only
Yep.
know about the different types of blood work because my husband has been doing some research, and he's like, I'm trying to find all these tests that I want to take, and I can't find anybody that does that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I would suggest would be the basic ones, and then from there, subspecialize it, right? Depending on your needs. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. And how to take the bloods, like the environment. I always give a fact sheet to my patients, so I just have to whip it up.
That was
Because some people
really
don't.
interesting about the environment. I'd never thought about that. I know with taking your blood pressure, most doctors' offices do this wrong because they'll just come in and they'll start talking to you, and they're talking to you the whole time they're taking your blood pressure, and they have you sitting up, and you're already anxious because you're in the doctor's office about something and you're probably in pain, and then they're surprised that you have high blood pressure, and then they want to give you some pills that are going to cause you other problems. Like, dude.
And labs, always stick to the same labs. Different labs, different machines, different reference ranges. It's again comparing apples and pears, and a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, I thought it didn't matter. I say it does matter where you do your bloods. Always stick to the same ones.
Yeah, that's really helpful pieces of information. Thank you so much. So
No
what's the
worries.
one thing you hope the audience takes away from our conversation today?
Listen to your body. I think that's so important. And based on that, then you advocate for your own health. Like, okay, maybe I've been living with this fatigue for a while, but I just thought it was just part of me and didn't never know any different. So listen to your body. Maybe then do your basic bloods, look at it from a functional point of view. You might not need drugs, you might not need supplements. It's just probably tweaking your nutrition, and then go from there. Listen to your
Awesome.
body.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Jill, for having me. You have a great day. I hope it's been really helpful to your audience, and I'll definitely will share it with my audience when this goes live.
Thank you for joining us for the U World Order Showcase podcast. Remember, if you would like to be featured on this podcast as a life, health, or transformational coach, please visit www.jointheuworldorder.com. We look forward to talking to you next time as we present another life, health, or transformational coach being the change they seek in the world.